The palace of Virelion shone like a frozen sunrise. Every wall looked alive, built from crystal that bent the light into rivers of blue and silver. Commander Luke Mason paused at the gates, his boots clicking on the glassy floor, his heart beating faster than he wanted to admit. He had crossed half the galaxy as Earth's envoy, trained for war and for peace, but this moment felt different. This was not a fight, not a treaty. It was something stranger. Alien eyes followed him as he entered the Starborn court. The nobles of Virelion wore masks of sculpted crystal that glittered in the torchlight. Behind those masks, their violet eyes glowed with curiosity. He could feel their voices like a soft storm of whispers, words he could almost but not quite understand. At the far end of the hall sat Princess Lyra. She was young by her people's measure, but there was a strength in the way she held her shoulders, a quiet fire in her gaze. Her skin shimmered faintly, the color of moonlight on deep water. A crown of thin silver strands floated above her head, as if held by a hidden current. When she spoke, her voice rang clear and light, like a bell struck in the cold air. "Human," she said, and the court fell silent. "I have studied the records you brought. They claim your kind can create life at any time of your cycle. You reproduce year-round." Luke gave a polite nod. "That's right, Your Highness," her violet eyes narrowed. "That is impossible. Life follows the dance of stars and seasons. No creature can escape that law." "You're lying." A small ripple of surprise ran through the chamber. Luke could hear a few of the masked nobles murmur behind their fans. He stayed calm, but his pulse jumped. "It's true," he said gently. "Humans don't wait for a special season. Love and birth come when they will." The princess tilted her head, the silver crown catching the light. "Prove it," she said. The room tightened with a low gasp. "Prove it." The words hung heavy. Luke knew this was more than a challenge to his biology. To these people, everything was measured. When they planted crops, when they bonded with mates, even when they were allowed to feel desire. Their lives followed strict patterns tied to the twin moons of their world. What he had said wasn't just strange, it was a quiet rebellion against their way of life. "I can share our science," Luke replied. "Records, images, testimonies—" "No," Lyra interrupted. "I want to see the truth in you. I want to feel it, not read it. If humans can create life at any time, then show me something that cannot be faked." The nobles leaned forward as if to catch his next breath. Luke felt heat rise to his face. How could he prove such a thing here and now? He searched for words and found none. Instead, he held her gaze steady and unbroken. "Your Highness," he said at last, "I cannot perform a miracle in front of you, but I can tell you what it means. To us, the ability to love and create life at any moment is not a trick. It is freedom. It is choice. We don't wait for the stars to allow it. We choose when our hearts are ready." Lyra's eyes flickered, a tiny spark of something. Doubt, curiosity, maybe even envy. Around them, the court rustled with uneasy motion. She stepped down from the dais and approached him. Each footstep sang like a note on glass. When she stopped before him, she looked smaller, almost human in her nearness. "Freedom," she repeated softly, tasting the word. "Our scholars say freedom without measure is chaos." Luke thought of Earth as she spoke, of winter births and summer weddings, of babies born in storms and under blazing suns. He thought of his late wife, Anna, who had wanted children before a sudden illness stole the chance. The memory ached, but it also warmed him. "Sometimes chaos is life," he said quietly. The princess studied him for a long moment. Then she turned back to her court, her voice sharper now. "Tomorrow," she said, "you will tell me more. If what you claim is truth, I will know it." The nobles murmured louder, but no one dared speak against her. That night, Luke wandered the crystal gardens outside the palace. Tiny lights floated above silver leaves, like stars caught in branches. He tried to steady his thoughts. He had faced alien warlords and navigated tense treaties, but he had never been asked to defend something as simple and as infinite as the human heart. He touched the cool trunk of a glowing tree and looked up at the twin moons. Somewhere far beyond those moons was Earth, a blue world alive with music, laughter, and the endless rhythm of birth. A world where love paid no attention to calendars. Luke felt a quiet certainty settle inside him. This wasn't only about science or diplomacy. The princess had asked him to prove humanity's way of life, but what she really wanted was to feel what it meant to choose freely. Tomorrow, he decided, he would give her not just facts, but the truth of a species that refused to let the universe decide when life begins. The twin moons of Verelion climbed higher, painting the palace gardens with soft silver light. Luke Mason walked along a path of glowing stones, their gentle warmth seeping through the soles of his boots. The air smelled faintly of spice and rain, though the night sky remained cloudless. He tried to calm the restless beat of his heart. Tomorrow he would stand again before the alien princess, and he still did not know how to prove what it meant to be human. He paused near a fountain shaped like a spiral galaxy. Water floated upward in perfect orbs before falling back in soft rain. It reminded him of Earth's rivers after a storm, wild, free, untamed. Here every droplet moved as if following a hidden command. Beautiful, yes, but controlled. Luke sat on the edge of the fountain and let the quiet wrap around him. Memories of home surfaced without warning. He saw his sister laughing under a heavy snowfall, her newborn wrapped in thick blankets. He remembered summer evenings on his parents' farm, when neighbors came to celebrate a birth beneath warm golden skies. In every memory, life happened when it chose. No season ruled it. The soft crunch of crystal steps broke his thoughts. He turned to see Princess Lyra approaching, her silver robes shimmering like starlight. Without her courtly guards and glowing crown, she looked less like a distant royal and more like a curious traveler. "I thought you would be asleep," Luke said gently. "I could not rest," she admitted, her voice carrying a quiet music. "Your words, they stirred something I do not understand." She stopped a few paces away and studied the floating water. In our world, every desire waits for the proper hour. We are told that longing outside the cycle leads to ruin, but you speak of freedom as if it is as natural as breathing. Luke offered a faint smile. "To us it is. Life isn't meant to be timed by the stars." Lyra lowered herself to the fountain's edge, careful but unafraid. "When I was a child," she said, "I once asked my tutors why the moons decide when we may create life. They said the moons sing to our bodies. They said without that harmony, chaos will consume us. I believed them. I had to." She glanced at him, her violet eyes catching the moonlight. "But what if they were wrong?" Luke heard the tremor in her question. He chose his words slowly. "Sometimes fear hides behind tradition. Your people fear chaos, but chaos, it is simply life's surprise. It's what makes every moment precious." The princess was silent, as if tasting the thought. Finally she asked, "Doesn't freedom frighten you?" "Of course it does," Luke said. "But fear doesn't stop us. My wife, Anna, she and I dreamed of a family. We never knew when the right time would come. We only knew we wanted love to guide us. Illness took her before we could try. That pain taught me something. Waiting for the perfect season can mean losing the chance altogether." Lyra's eyes softened. "I am sorry," she whispered. He nodded, throat tight. Her dream still lives in every human child born whenever the heart calls. That is how we honor those we lose. We keep choosing life. The princess looked away, watching the water orbs rise and fall. "Your words feel dangerous," she said at last, "but also beautiful." They sat in quiet for a long time. The garden hummed with faint energy, as if the moons themselves were listening. Luke felt an unexpected calm settle over him. Finally, Lyra stood. "Tomorrow the council will demand proof again," she said. "They expect a spectacle. If you cannot provide one, they will call you a deceiver." "I have records," Luke offered. "Images, data. They will not believe cold numbers," she interrupted gently. "They need to feel truth, and I need to feel it too." Luke rose to stand beside her. "Then maybe it isn't something to show. Maybe it's something to share." She studied his face, searching for meaning. "Share? When I speak of freedom," he said, "it isn't only about children or seasons. It's about choice, about trusting the heart even when the stars say no. That's something you can feel if you let yourself." For a moment her expression softened, almost tender. Then she pulled her robe tighter. "I do not yet know how to let myself." "You already started," Luke said quietly. "You came here tonight." A flicker of surprise crossed her face, followed by a small, shy smile, so quick he almost missed it. The princess turned toward the palace lights. "The council meets at dawn. Rest, Commander. Tomorrow may decide more than you know." She glided back along the glowing path, leaving a trail of soft silver light. Luke watched until she disappeared behind a curve of crystal trees. He remained by the fountain long after she left, the night breeze brushing his face. Something had shifted. The challenge was no longer about convincing a council with charts or words. It was about reaching a single heart, the heart of a princess raised in a world of rules. Luke looked up at the twin moons again. Their light felt different now, less like judges and more like silent witnesses. Maybe even they understood that life was more than their ancient pull. A sudden thought struck him. Tomorrow was not just a debate about biology. It was a chance to show that freedom is an emotion, a living force no law can cage. He felt a quiet strength building in his chest. Whatever came at dawn, he would not only defend humanity's truth, he would help Lyra see that her own heart carried the same wild power. And perhaps, he thought with a small smile, that might be proof enough. Morning arrived in a slow silver dawn. The twin moons still clung to the horizon as soft light poured through the crystal walls of Luke's guest chamber. He stood by the tall window, watching mist slide across the palace gardens. Every breath felt heavy with what the day might bring. The Council of Verelion would soon gather, and Princess Lyra would call on him to prove what no human could truly demonstrate in a single moment. He dressed in the dark blue jacket of Earth's diplomatic corps and tightened the clasp at his neck. The metal felt cold against his skin. In the mirror, his reflection stared back. Tired eyes, a small scar on his cheek from an old mission, and a quiet resolve he barely recognized. Freedom is not a chart, he reminded himself. It's a feeling. A soft chime sounded at the door. Enter, Luke said. The door opened and Princess Lyra stepped in, wrapped in a robe the color of pale starlight. Without her crown, she looked almost human, but the faint glow of her skin betrayed her otherworldly grace. She carried a small sphere of blue crystal in her hands. I came before the council summons, she said, her voice gentle. I wanted to speak with you alone. Luke offered a cautious smile. I'm glad you did. She moved closer, holding the glowing sphere. This is a memory stone, she explained. It records thoughts and feelings. If you wish, you may hold it. It will not hurt you. Luke accepted the sphere. Warmth spread through his palms and images flickered faintly inside the crystal. Shadows of silver towers, laughing children with glowing eyes, the crash of ocean waves beneath twin moons. Her memories, he realized. Fragments of a life bound to cycles and laws. You trust me with this? He asked softly. I do, she replied, because last night you spoke of your wife and the freedom of your people. Your words stayed with me. They unsettled me. I was raised to believe that choice is dangerous, that love outside the moon's call leads to ruin. But a part of me wonders if we have been living in a cage. Luke closed his fingers around the stone. Sometimes a cage can be beautiful enough to hide its bars. Lyra's eyes glimmered, troubled. The council will not accept your records. They will demand a sign beyond science. They want certainty. She hesitated, then added, and part of me does as well. He studied her face, sensing the conflict within her. What do you believe? The princess lowered her gaze. I believe I am afraid. Afraid of wanting something the laws forbid. Afraid of a freedom I do not understand. Luke took a slow breath. Fear doesn't mean you're weak. It means you care about what's at stake. Her eyes lifted to his, searching. How do humans live with such fear? We face it together, he said. We love despite it. We build families and friendships knowing that everything can be lost. That is what makes every moment precious. The memory stone pulsed faintly, reflecting his words in a soft blue glow. A low gong echoed through the halls, 3 deep notes that trembled in the floor. Lyra straightened, her royal posture returning. The council calls us, she said, though her voice carried a shadow of hesitation. Luke set the memory stone on a small table. Then let's give them truth even if they don't want it. The council chamber was a cathedral of living crystal, its ceiling so high it seemed to merge with the sky. 12 elders stood in a circle, each draped in robes that shimmered like molten pearl. Their eyes burned bright violet through masks of etched glass. The air itself seemed to hum with quiet power. Lyra entered first, head high, and Luke followed. Every step echoed sharply like a challenge. An elder with a staff of dark obsidian spoke first. Princess Lyra, you summoned us to hear the words of this human. We expect proof, not fables. Luke felt the weight of their collective gaze. He drew a steady breath. Honored council, I bring evidence. Records of births across every month of our year. Testimonies from families across my world. Humanity does not wait for a season to create life. We choose when the heart is ready. He activated a small projector on his wrist. Holograms flared to life. Mothers cradling newborns in winter snow. Fathers laughing under blazing summer suns, children born beneath autumn leaves and spring blossoms. Each image hung in the crystalline air like a silent heartbeat. The elders studied the lights with cold detachment. One finally hissed, "Pictures prove nothing. They could be false. Words can be shaped like smoke." Luke expected doubt, but the sharpness of their dismissal still stung. "These are the lives of real people," he said, his voice firmer. "We don't need moons to tell us when to love." Another elder stepped forward, robes shimmering like a storm. "And yet you stand here alone. Where is the life you claim to create at will? Show us creation itself or admit your deceit." Luke's chest tightened. How could they demand a miracle on command? He opened his mouth, but before he could speak, Lyra stepped forward. "Enough," she said, her clear voice cutting through the chamber like a blade of light. The elders turned toward her, startled. "You asked for proof that life cannot offer," she continued. "You want to bind the infinite to a single moment. This human brings not tricks but truth. I have seen his memories, felt the weight of his heart. He speaks of freedom, of love beyond the cold pull of moons. And I believe him." A murmur rippled through the council, half outrage, half disbelief. One elder snarled, "Princess, you defy tradition." "I honor life," Lyra said, standing taller. "Perhaps it is we who fear chaos so deeply that we have forgotten its beauty." Her words echoed a challenge no one expected. Luke felt a rush of admiration, and something deeper he did not dare name. The eldest of the council raised a hand, silencing the room. "These are dangerous ideas," the elder said slowly. "But ideas once spoken cannot be unsaid. We will deliberate." With a gesture, the council retreated into a private chamber, leaving Lyra and Luke alone beneath the high, silent ceiling. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Lyra turned to Luke, her eyes bright with quiet fire. "I do not know what the council will decide," she said. "But today, for the first time, I chose to speak my own heart." Luke met her gaze and felt a small, hopeful ache. "That is the proof they asked for," he said softly. "Not of human life, but of human spirit." A faint smile touched her lips. "Perhaps," she whispered, "and perhaps it is enough." The council chamber emptied slowly, leaving only the echoes of ancient arguments behind the crystal doors. Luke and Princess Lyra stepped into the wide outer hall where soft blue light spilled from the high windows. The air felt lighter, yet Luke could sense the tension coiled inside the princess like a quiet storm. They walked side by side through a long corridor of glowing vines. The vines pulsed faintly as if alive, their rhythm matching the beat of Luke's heart. He waited for Lyra to speak, but she was silent until they reached a small balcony overlooking the endless city of crystal towers. Below them, Beryllian's capital stretched like a living constellation. Roads curved in silver arcs and airships drifted between spires like slow-moving stars. The twin moons hovered low, painting the horizon in lavender light. Lyra rested her hands on the balcony rail. "I can still hear their voices," she said quietly. "The council will not forgive my defiance." Luke leaned beside her. "You spoke the truth. That's never a mistake." "Truth is not always welcome," she murmured. For a moment, they simply watched the city breathe. Then Luke said, "You asked yesterday how humans live with fear. Maybe a story will help." Her violet eyes turned toward him, curious. "My sister gave birth during the coldest winter I can remember," Luke began. "A blizzard covered our town. Roads were blocked, power lines fell. We thought she might not make it to the hospital. But she laughed through it all. She said a child's arrival doesn't wait for perfect weather." Lyra tilted her head, absorbing every word. "They drove through snow and reached a small clinic," he continued. "The doctor said the storm was too dangerous for lights or heat. Yet my niece came into the world that night wrapped in quilts, her tiny cry louder than the wind. She was healthy. And that moment, it was pure life choosing its own time." Lyra's gaze softened. "No season, no signal from your moons?" "Nothing but love," Luke said. "My neighbor's son was born during a summer festival. Music filled the streets, fireworks burst overhead. Another friend welcomed a child in autumn while leaves turned red. There is no single time. We simply trust our hearts." The princess touched the balcony rail, her fingers trembling slightly. "It sounds like a song without measure," she whispered. "Wild, but beautiful," Luke nodded. "That's what makes it precious. Every birth, every love is its own miracle." For a while they stood in silence. The city below shimmered like a sea of stars. Lyra closed her eyes as if imagining the snowy clinic, the festival lights, the falling leaves. Your world is alive in ways ours has forgotten, she said softly. We are bound to the moons. Desire is a tide we obey. Our parents teach us that freedom brings ruin, but perhaps ruin is only another name for change. Luke turned toward her. Change is how life grows. Without it, we're just still. A faint smile touched her lips. You speak like a poet, Commander Mason. Maybe all humans are poets when we talk about the heart, he said with a small shrug. Her laughter, quiet and quick, surprised them both. It was light as falling glass, and Luke felt warmth bloom in his chest. Later that day, Lyra led him through the hidden gardens of the palace. Here the air was fragrant with luminous flowers that opened and closed with every heartbeat of the twin suns above. A soft path wound through silver trees whose leaves chimed like bells in the breeze. My mother used to bring me here, Lyra said, her voice tinged with memory. She said the garden teaches patience. Each flower opens only when the moons align. No sooner, no later. Luke crouched to examine a blossom glowing like liquid fire. They're beautiful. But do you ever wish one would open early just to surprise you? Lyra's eyes lingered on the flower. I used to wish that, she admitted. When I was small, I would whisper to them, begging for one to break the rule. None ever did. Maybe they were waiting for you to break a rule first, Luke said. She looked at him, startled, then laughed again, this time a little bolder. Perhaps you are right. They walked deeper into the garden. The air grew warmer, filled with the gentle hum of unseen creatures. Luke noticed how the princess kept glancing at him, as if weighing questions too fragile to voice. Finally, she asked, Does every human child know this freedom from birth? We're taught to respect it, Luke replied. But the real lesson is lived. We see neighbors choose love in different seasons. We see families formed in the middle of storms or droughts. We learn that life can start at any time, if we dare to let it. Lyra stopped beside a small pond that reflected the twin suns. Dare, she repeated as though the word itself was new. Yes, Luke said gently. It takes courage to follow the heart. She knelt at the water's edge, her reflection shimmering beside his. Your courage frightens me, she confessed. It calls to something I thought I had silenced. Luke knelt beside her. Maybe that part of you was never silent. Maybe it was waiting. Her violet eyes met his, filled with a soft glow that outshone the pond's reflection. If I chose to follow it, she asked, would it change who I am? It might show you who you already are, Luke said. They stayed by the pond as the twin suns began to set, washing the garden in hues of rose and gold. Lyra's hand hovered near the water, then touched its surface, sending ripples across the mirrored sky. Tomorrow the council will speak again, she said quietly. They will want me to reject your words to protect tradition. And what will you do? Luke asked. Her answer was a whisper carried by the evening breeze. I will listen to my heart, even if it breaks the song of the moons. Night fell like a velvet curtain. Stars glimmered overhead, bright and countless. Luke watched the princess stand beneath their light, her silver robe glowing faintly against the dark. In that moment, he understood that her struggle was not only about his claim, it was about her own awakening. As they left the garden, a quiet certainty settled over Luke. The proof the council demanded was not a single act or scientific record. It was unfolding right here, in the courage of a young princess daring to imagine life beyond the chains of tradition. And maybe, he thought, that was the most human proof of all. The next morning, the palace bells rang in slow, solemn rhythm. Their deep notes rolled through the crystal towers like the sound of distant thunder. Luke Mason felt the vibration in his chest as he entered the great hall once more. Today the Council of Virelion would give its judgment. Today the princess would stand with him, or stand against him. The chamber was brighter than before. Twin shafts of sunlight poured through the crystal ceiling, painting the floor in ribbons of silver and blue. 12 elders waited in their high seats, robes gleaming like molten pearl. Their masks of carved glass reflected the light so fiercely that Luke had to squint. Princess Lyra walked at his side. She wore a gown of soft white that caught every color in the room. No crown floated above her head today. She had left it behind. The choice seemed small but spoke louder than any words. Luke felt quiet pride at her courage. The eldest counselor raised a staff of black stone. The time has come, the elder intoned. The human claims his kind can create life in all seasons. He offers records and stories, but no living proof. Today we demand the truth. Luke stepped forward, his voice steady. Honored counsel, I cannot summon a child in an instant. Life is not a trick to perform on command, but I can show you more than words. From a small case at his side, he drew a slender projector. A soft blue light spilled across the chamber as a holographic screen bloomed in midair. Faces appeared, mothers and fathers from every corner of Earth, each holding a newborn. Some stood in thick winter coats, snow swirling around them. Others smiled under blazing summer skies. Autumn leaves drifted in one scene. In another, spring blossoms filled the air. This, Luke said, is the truth of my people. Life begins when love chooses, under any sun, beneath any sky. No season rules us, the council murmured. The images shifted again. Families celebrating in crowded city hospitals and quiet rural homes on ships sailing stormy seas. Each scene carried a heartbeat of its own. These are not fabrications, Luke continued. You may examine every record. Our science confirms it, but more than science, this is who we are. Free to love, free to begin without waiting for a signal from the stars. Silence followed. The elders' glowing eyes flicked from one image to another. Yet Luke sensed their doubt heavy as stone. Finally, an elder spoke, voice sharp as a blade. Pictures can be forged. Records can lie. Where is the proof that cannot be faked? Luke's jaw tightened. I have given all that is possible. Life cannot be commanded like a machine. Another elder hissed. Then you fail. Before Luke could answer, Princess Lyra stepped forward. Her voice rang clear and bright through the hall. No, he does not fail. All 12 elders turned to her. You ask for proof beyond science, she said. You want a miracle to soothe your fear. But life is not a performance. I have felt the truth in his words, in his memories, in the courage of his heart. He speaks of freedom, of love unbound by moons, and I believe him. A ripple of outrage swept the council. Princess, one elder snapped, you risk the stability of our world. Lyra stood taller. Perhaps our world needs to be shaken. The eldest counselor's voice was cold. You defy the laws of the moons. I honor life, Lyra replied. You call chaos dangerous, but I see beauty in the unexpected. I see hope in choice. Her words echoed off the crystal walls, carrying a power that surprised even Luke. He watched her with a quiet awe. She was no longer a cautious princess. She was a leader. The eldest counselor raised a hand, silencing the chamber. This is rebellion, the elder said. But we will deliberate before judgment. The council withdrew to their private chamber, leaving the vast hall strangely still. Luke released a slow breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Lyra turned to him. Did I speak too boldly? She asked, her voice softer now. You spoke from your heart, Luke said. That's never too bold. She gave a small, trembling smile. My heart is still racing. I have never stood against them before. You were brilliant, he said. Whatever happens, you've already changed something. Lyra looked up at the great crystal dome above them, where sunlight now blazed like a captured star. Perhaps, she whispered. But change often comes with a cost. Luke met her gaze. Freedom always does. They waited together in silence. The minutes stretched long. Luke studied the play of light across the crystal walls, each beam scattering into 1,000 tiny rainbows. He thought of Earth, of crowded city streets, of children laughing under different skies. He thought of Anna, of the dream they had shared, and he felt her presence like a warm echo. At last, the council returned. The elders took their seats, their expressions hidden behind masks of shimmering glass. The eldest rose. We have heard the words of the human and the defiance of our princess. We cannot deny that his evidence is strong, yet we cannot accept a truth that unravels the laws that guide our people. We will not condemn, but neither will we embrace his claim. The debate will continue among our scholars. A heavy hush filled the chamber. It was not a victory, not a defeat. It was a door left half open. Lyra inclined her head, her voice calm but firm. Then let the debate begin. Let our people speak and think freely. That is all we ask. The elders said nothing more. As they left the chamber, Luke felt the weight of tension ease, replaced by a strange, quiet hope. Outside, the twin moons shone pale in the daylight sky. Lyra walked beside him, her face thoughtful but bright. You did more than convince them, Luke said. You planted a seed. She looked at him, a small smile blooming. A seed of change? Yes, he said. And seeds have a way of growing even in stone. They paused on the palace steps, the vast city of crystal stretching before them. Lyra took a deep breath of the cool air. For the first time, she said softly, I feel the world might be wider than our laws. Wider than the moon's. Luke watched her, a quiet admiration warming his chest. It always was, he said. End of Part 5. The sun of Verelion dipped low, casting golden light across the crystal spires. From the palace balconies, the world seemed to glow as if lit from within. Luke Mason leaned against a railing carved from moonstone, feeling the cool surface beneath his palms. The council's half-answer still rang in his mind. Not victory, not defeat, only a beginning. Below, the city stirred with quiet energy. Small clusters of citizens gathered in the wide streets, speaking in hushed voices. News of the council's debate had already spread. Luke watched their silver eyes flash in the fading light, curiosity awakening where certainty once ruled. Princess Lyra stepped beside him. Her gown rustled softly in the breeze. Do you hear it? She asked. Hear what? Luke turned to her. The change, she said. The whispers. My people rarely speak in open streets, but tonight they do. They are questioning. Luke listened. From the distant plazas came a low murmur, like a river beneath stone. It carried words he couldn't understand, but the sound was unmistakable, restless, alive. You started this, Luke said. Lyra shook her head. No, we started it. Your truth lit the spark. My voice gave it air. But it belongs to them now. She looked over the glowing city, her silver hair catching the last rays of sun. Luke felt a deep warmth in his chest. She had always been graceful, but now she stood with a strength that humbled him. That night, Luke could not sleep. He wandered the silent halls, his thoughts heavy. He wondered what Earth would think if they knew he stood here, halfway across the galaxy, fighting for something as simple and vast as freedom to love. He thought of Anna, her laughter, her belief in the power of small acts, and wished she could see this. A soft light flickered at the end of the corridor. Lyra waited there, holding a lantern of pale blue fire. You walk as if ghosts follow you, she said gently. Maybe they do, Luke answered with a small smile. Memories, at least. Tell me of them. So he did. They walked beneath tall crystal arches while Luke spoke of Earth's crowded cities, of oceans that roared like living beasts, of children playing in winter snow and under summer suns. He told her of Anna, the woman who had dreamed of sharing their world's endless possibilities. She sounds brave, Lyra said. She was, Luke replied. She believed love was the greatest freedom. Lyra walked in silence for a moment. Your Anna would be proud of you. Tonight you gave us a gift we did not know we needed. Luke felt a lump rise in his throat. Maybe, he said softly. I just hope the seed we planted grows. The following day, the city changed in ways Luke had never seen. Markets bustled with debate. Families gathered in open squares, speaking of things once forbidden. Some argued fiercely, others listened with wide eyes. Children played games about endless seasons, laughing at the thought of life blooming without moons. Luke and Lyra walked through the streets together, unescorted. Many bowed, but more simply looked at them with quiet wonder. An elder approached, her hair silver as frost. Princess, the elder said, is it true? Humans create life when they choose? Yes, Lyra answered without hesitation. Their hearts are not bound to moons. The elder's eyes glimmered with something like longing. Perhaps we have been too careful, she murmured. Perhaps we have forgotten wonder. When she left, Luke caught the faint tremor in Lyra's breath. Every word you speak changes something, he whispered. Every word we share, she corrected. But not everyone welcomed the change. As twilight fell, a group of stern council guards intercepted them near the palace gates. Their leader, a tall figure in dark armor, bowed stiffly. Princess, he said, the council demands your presence. There is unrest. Some fear your words have gone too far. Lyra straightened, her face calm but her eyes sharp. Tell the council I will speak with them when I choose. Tonight I walk with my friend. The guard hesitated. Luke sensed tension in the air like a drawn bow, but the guard finally bowed again and stepped aside. When they were alone, Luke said quietly, that could have ended badly. Lyra gave a small, fearless smile. Freedom asks for courage. Later, they returned to the high balcony. The city below shimmered with lantern light. Luke felt the crisp night air fill his lungs. Beside him, Lyra gazed at the stars scattered across the dark. You know, Luke said, On Earth, we look up at these same stars and wonder if anyone is out there. I never thought I'd stand here, sharing this view with someone from another world. And I never thought I'd stand with someone who teaches me to see my own world anew, Lyra replied. They fell into quiet. The moons rose together, one silver, one pale blue, casting twin shadows. Their light blended over the city like a promise, Luke, Lyra said softly. Yes, I envy your freedom, she whispered. To love without season. To choose without permission. He looked at her, heart thudding. You can have that too. Her eyes met his, bright as starlight. Perhaps, she said, a hint of hope in her voice. Perhaps our hearts can choose as freely as yours. For a moment they simply stood there, the universe wide and waiting. Luke felt something shift between them, gentle but strong, like the first breath of spring after a long winter. Far below, a child's laughter drifted up through the cool night air. It sounded like the beginning of a song. Lyra closed her eyes and smiled. Do you hear it? She asked again. Luke listened. The sound of life, of change, of freedom, soft but unstoppable, rose through the crystal city. Yes, he said, I hear it. And together they watched the twin moons climb higher, knowing the world around them would never be the same. A pale mist floated over the crystal city as the new day began. The twin moons faded into a sky of quiet pink and gold. Luke Mason stood on the high balcony, breathing the cool air. The world below felt different, still the same shining spires and endless bridges, yet alive in a new way. He could hear the soft hum of voices rising from the streets even at this early hour. The people of Verelion were awake in more than body. They were awake in spirit. Princess Lyra stepped beside him, her long cloak brushing the balcony floor. They gather again, she said, nodding toward the great square. From above, Luke saw a wide crowd forming. Families, elders, children, merchants, faces turned upward toward the palace. Lanterns flickered like tiny suns in their hands. They're waiting for you, Luke said. Lyra's silver eyes shone with both worry and hope. They're waiting for us, she corrected softly. The palace doors opened with a low, resonant tone, and together they walked down the wide steps into the growing light. The crowd parted as they approached, but no one knelt. Instead, the people simply looked at them with quiet respect. Luke felt a shiver of wonder. This wasn't obedience. This was choice. An elder stepped forward. Not one of the council. This woman wore no jeweled robe, only a plain wrap of soft gray. Princess, she said, her voice steady, we have spoken through the night. We have listened to stories we were never told. We no longer wish to wait for the moons. A murmur swept the crowd. Agreement, excitement, nervousness. Another citizen, a young man with eyes bright as molten silver, raised his hand. We are not machines, he said loudly. We are not bound to a calendar of stars. We are alive. Lyra's heart pounded, and Luke felt it echo in his own chest. She stepped forward, her voice clear as a bell. My people, she said, for generations we believed the moons commanded our hearts. We honored the pattern, and it gave us order. But order is not life. Today we remember that love belongs to no season. Life begins when we choose. The crowd answered with a deep rising cheer that filled the square like a wave. The sound brought the council. 12 elders emerged from the palace's inner hall, their robes gleaming in the new sun. For a moment the square grew tense, the cheers fading to a wary hush. The eldest counselor raised a hand. Princess Lyra, the elder said, you defy tradition. You lead our people into uncertainty. Why should we allow this? Lyra did not look away. Because the truth has already taken root, she said. Because the people have spoken with hearts unafraid. The elder's gaze shifted to Luke. And you, human traveler, what is your place in this? Luke stepped forward. His voice carried across the square. I came here only to share what is real. I never sought to break your laws. But I have seen your courage. You are ready to walk into a wider world. I believe in you. The eldest counselor studied the crowd, their faces bright with hope. At last the elder lowered the staff of office. Perhaps, the elder said slowly, our world is ready to listen rather than command. A breath of relief and joy swept the square. The people cheered again, louder this time, the sound rolling like distant thunder. As the council withdrew, Lyra turned to Luke. Her eyes glimmered with tears that caught the morning light. It has begun, she whispered. It has, he said, his own throat tight. You did this. We did, her eyes seemed to say. Later, when the crowd dispersed to share the news, Luke and Lyra walked through the quiet gardens behind the palace. Crystal flowers opened as the sunlight warmed them, releasing a soft, sweet fragrance. Birds with feathers like liquid metal darted among the branches. Lyra touched one of the blossoms. "For so long I thought freedom was dangerous," she said. "Now I see it as simply alive, like these flowers opening to the sun." Luke smiled. "Life finds a way. Always." They came to a small fountain where water leapt in sparkling arcs. Lyra turned to him, her voice low but certain. "Luke, you will leave soon, won't you?" "Your world calls you back," he hesitated. "Yes, my ship will come in a few days." Her silver eyes softened. "I will miss our walks under the moons. And I'll miss this sky," he said. "But I'll carry it with me." She stepped closer. "You have given us more than knowledge. You gave us courage, and you gave me something I cannot name." Luke felt the space between them grow quiet and warm. He gently took her hand. "You gave me hope," he said. For a heartbeat they stood like that, the sound of the fountain mingling with the soft morning breeze. No promise needed to be spoken. The connection was enough. That evening, as the first stars appeared, the city celebrated. Lanterns of every color floated into the sky, rising like new constellations. Music filled the streets, songs Luke had never heard, full of joy and wild rhythm. Children danced in circles. Elders laughed with abandon, and everywhere people spoke of new beginnings. Luke and Lyra stood again on the palace balcony, watching the lights drift upward. "Do you see?" Lyra said. "The stars are no longer the only guides. Tonight we choose the path." Luke nodded, his heart full. "You've given your world a future that belongs to everyone," she smiled. "And you reminded us that life waits for no season." As the night deepened, a gentle silence settled over the city. The lanterns shone like tiny suns among the stars. Luke felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. Beside him, Lyra's presence was steady, bright as moonlight. "This is just the beginning," she said quietly. "Yes," Luke agreed. "Beginnings never end. They keep unfolding." The twin moons rose together, bathing them in silver light. For the first time, the people of Virelion looked up not to obey but to dream. And somewhere far beyond, on a small blue planet, humanity's own sky shimmered with the same eternal promise, that love and life belonged to those brave enough to choose.